And thank you, Amelie, and thanks to all the organizer. As we have seen a lot of faunal lists, I will give you a new reason to live, and it will be lithics. Okay, so there are many less genus than for fauna, so it will be easier. According to what has been seen by the previous intervenant, Pirro Nord, it's a site that can fit with all the sites that we have seen before. Of course, as we have underlined during several communication, we have problem of chronologies for this period. And if we have human evidence, we have more problems of chronologies because we want to be the oldest one and so on. But if you are taking a general point of view, I think that we have to deal with something that we can consider more or less at the same time. And never forget that when we say same time, we are meaning normally at least 300,000 years. And it's a lot of time if we want to define a culture. Because in 300,000 years, we come from Levallois to Wash-Poly and so on. And strangely, for this period, we are making consideration that are put together all those sites, but we have never to forget that our chronology is something quite strange. So saying that, I think we can go to Pirro Nord. I suppose everybody knows the site. Pirro Nord, it's basically a hole inside, it's a dolina, inside an active limestone quarry. It means that everything is in a secondary position, like it's for a lot of sites of this period, but in this case, more. With the studies and the systematic excavation are made since 2004. So since that moment, we have now some useful information that can allow and help us to have general consideration and a better interpretation of the sites. So Pirro Nord, it's in Southeast Europe, the opposite of the Cathedral South. So, and as you can see, it's located inside a slope of an active quarry. This is complicating a little bit the activities of excavation, of course, because we have to deal with the quarry activity first of all. By a general point of view, we quickly see the geology. So basically, the stratigraphic succession of the horst of Apricena, it's made by polygenic karst fissure inside a final-Miocene and preistoric limestone, as you can see is. And after there is a discordance and the calcarenite from Pleistocene. In the Miocene fissures, we have, of course, faunas that are attributed to the so-called microtia faunas that is characterized by evidences of giantism and nanism, typical of an insular condition like the Gargano was at this moment. Those fissures are, in very rare case, if compared to the old Apricena basin, refilled by Villafranchian sediments. And this it is the site of Pirro Nord. So basically, we are on an, of course, anthropic wall, and this is the location of the Pirro Nord fissure. So it's something at the contact between the limestone and the so-called Cappellaccio stairs. Inside the Pirro Nord fissure, we have a chaotic accumulation of lithics and faunal remains. By a general point of view, it's almost impossible to define really a stratigraphy. We can recognize some differences inside the sediments, but there are a lot of modification vertically and horizontally. I can say each 5 centimeters. And if we are dealing with remplissage of this fissure, according to lithics, according to faunas, we cannot see any kind of difference between the so-called level. The micromorphological analysis, according to the observation made during the excavation and the analysis of the taphonical conservation of lithics and bones, let us say that generally we can consider the fissure of Pirro Nord like a unique event, same unique event, of course. It's at this chronological scale of time. So the interpretation is that the site was somewhere not far from the actual position, and meteorological and gravitational phenomena have bring inside the fissure the part connected to the site and some other animal carcasses. It's impossible, of course, to make a real differentiation from what is coming from an anthropic site and what is there for other reason. Because the taphonomy is quite homogeneous around all the assemblage. So the Pirro Nord faunal unit, it will be the faster faunal list in this conference during today. It's made by a lot of species of amphibian and reptiles, a lot of species of bird, and more than 40 species of mammals. Some of them are listed there. And as yesterday, the Mammutus meridionalis was really the topic, I had up about the Mammutus meridionalis. Point. Okay. So, of course, as it's a secondary infilling of materials, the remains that we found are not always in a very good conservation mood. So we are passing through a very long process of restoration, and it's very rare for big mammals to find complete bones. We found a lot of complete bones of rabbits, even in connection. I don't know why. And according to biochronology, Pirro Nord is considered to be more or less contemporary to the Venta-Mucena accumulation in Spain. And so we are spanning a date from 1.3 or 1.2 and 1.6 million years ago. The big problem is that we have tried to apply several dating methods, but any of them give us congruent information. And basically all the radiometric methods are giving us a very old date that is not fitting with the fauna. And so finally the paleomagnetism has given us an inverse situation, but not so clear inverse situation. We have tried with the paleobotanic also, but there is not one single pollen or polynomorph concern within the stratigraphy. So basically the only way to give an age to Pirro Nord is biochronology, and it has been done, of course, mainly on the base of micromammals, and generally also the micromammals, and especially the species of Alphaeomus rufoi, are confirming us that we are in a span of time between 1.3 and 1.6 million years ago. By a general point of view, the study of micromammals and also of large mammifers allow us to reconstruct a little bit the ecological situation of the area between in this span of time. Of course, to say something like the environment was characterized by a reduction of the forest and expansion of open area, it's quite tricky, because we are considering in this affirmation that for 300,000 years we have the same environment, and we know that this is not credible. but everybody is doing this, so I will also do. Okay. And lithics, Pirro Nord, it's become an important site, of course, more in the last years, because lithics industry has been found associated to the faunal remains. After more than 10 years of excavation, we have found around 560 lithic industry, but there is not so much. But if we compare to contemporary sites, are quite a good assemblage. We can say about the lithics that the Homo was collecting lithic raw material around the site and exploiting them by different production sequences according more to the morphology of raw material than other things. And one nice thing is that we have found some morphologies like the triangular point that we can solve there that are very recurrent. And in our idea, so the Homo of Pirro Nord was already producing something that had a finality, a clear finality, and it was not only producing flakes to have a cutting edge, but also to have a morphology. The paleontological and archaeological study of the material have been done recently again by Professor Sala for the paleontological aspect and by Kelly for the taphonomical and archaeological aspect. And finally, we found a clear connection between the bones and the lithic, as we have found cut marks. In order to confirm this presence of cut marks, a joint study of taphonomy has been done on lithics and faunal remain, in order to confirm that the taphonomical process that affect the lithics and the bones were the same. And finally, the study of a different degree and the different action happened on the lithics show that the history of accumulation is absolutely homogeneous for lithics and faunas. By the other side, the analysis of cutting edge of lithics allow us to find 5 flakes of 500 that show human activity like butchering activities connecting to cutting action and detected on the basis of high angle of work. So the cutting stria that we have found on bones are mainly located, of course, on the amphisis with not a paleontological attribution, but we have also found some clear incision on Ecus and Pseudodama, like you can see here. So we can for sure now make a correlation between the cut marks and the lithic production. Up to today, we have more or less 80 bones with showing cut marks. So by a general point of view, if we want to try to keep some information from Pirro Nord, we can say that the Homo was living in an open area with temporary bodies of water, but it was exploiting local raw material and local trace. So it was quite like everything given environment. And we can also say that the access to prey was probably secondary, because we have some cases of carnivore traces and after lithics traces. So in some cases, it's possible to say that it was really a secondary access to price. And we can say that the behavior, by a general point of view, it's absolutely opportunistic in terms of obtain what we need in the faster way is possible. General, most for the ones who are doing with lithic, for the ones who are given faunal list, we are used to make comparison about Europe between 1.3 and 1 million years ago and so on. And if you try, there is a problem of what do I take? If we try to understand effectively if there are convergences, if we found common traits, it's quite hard. Because if we are plotting some of the sites that are testing an occupation before 1 million years ago or around millions years ago, we can see that we have different environments. And once more, when we define the environments, maybe it's not exactly the day where the Homo was there. We have the exploitation of different raw materials. Sometimes we have just one raw material. Sometimes we have several raw materials. Sometimes we have different metals, sometimes not. And we have different occupation because we have cave occupation, open air site occupation. So the thing is, by a general point of view, maybe we can see a common criteria, we can see a common behavior, we can for sure know that the Homo is coming from the east, or maybe not, if Gibraltar can be considered as a passage. So I think we have to implement a lot the number of sites before to really have one idea about what they was doing there and who they were, because the big problem is also that the only human remains that we have in Europe, if we exclude Manisi, of course, are very few, and any of them has a specific attribution, until Homo antecessor, of course, but it's after. And so we have basically a big question mark, because we can for surely see that there is a connection with the environment. How big is this connection? It's related to the out of Africa, to the look of some ecological conditions that are similar to the one where we was. And we know that the behavior is related to a locality. So we never saw a very long trip to collect something, but by the other side, also the Neanderthal in a lot of cases, it's adopting a local behavior. So this just to say that probably we have to try to find real common traits, because for the moment we are very general. And I think all the studies that are implementing now in the East, like the ones in Turkey, in Greece, and so on, can help to define a better idea and framework of what we are dealing with. And thank you for your attention.